Okay, so it is time for us to get started. For those
Okay.
who are joining us right now, welcome. This is our BHIS/anti-siphon webcast, and we are joined by our friends at Secure Ideas. We've got Kathy here, Kathy Collins, and Nathan Sweaney. They're going to be talking to us about, about devices on the network that you might not think are potentially a problem to your security, but very much are, whether they be toasters or smart coffee makers or who knows what. If you've been in the field long enough, you've probably run into some little strange device that you find out later is some oddball IoT thing, and they're going to talk about it. And if you like anything they're saying, which I'm sure you will, definitely check out their upcoming Pay What You Can anti-siphon course on PCI 101, taught by Mr. Nathan Sweaney right here. And Kathy, are you involved in teaching that class as well?
I'm not in
You're
that.
not? Okay. Yeah, so Nathan's the instructor here, and we'll teach you about the whole world of PCI and compliance and things that go into securing environments that have credit cards. But if you want to check that out, we'll have links inside of there. We'll talk about it as well at the end if you have questions. But at this point, you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from these folks. So Megan, myself, and Ryan, we're going to go off camera and hand it over to Nathan and Kathy so we can hear more about these naughty toasters and how to punish them. Right? That's what we're going to talk about. All right, great. Thanks for being here, y'all.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Well, you guys feel free to jump back in if you have comments or want to make, questions or whatever. We're going to be pretty relaxed and just hopefully have a good time over the next hour. Kathy and I were talking about, like, I don't remember what started this. Do you remember what prompted this conversation the other day?
I might have seen on a Google, there was a show that I saw, a smart air fryer or something, and yeah, we were like, what do you think of that? That's,
what are you gonna do with an air fryer?
Cook like a chef, or it's more of a, what do I think of air fryer in general?
Well, just in general, like, I mean, the whole idea.
Yeah, I for years I resisted it because I was like, it's a marketing ploy. You can't fry air. It's just a convection oven. But I got one about a year ago that is more of a convection oven. Like, it's, if you get away from the air fryer part of it and just think of it as what it is, it does a lot of great things.
Yeah.
But it's not frying air.
I love ours. In fact, we hardly use the microwave anymore because it's like, hey, just throw it in the air fryer. It works out better. But it's not a smart air fryer. I'm disappointed. I was actually looking, as we were looking at devices and stuff for this, I'm like, okay, that's really cool. I'm not sure if I want it on my network, but that's kind of cool idea.
Yeah.
So as we were kind of building this up, one of the things that has come up a lot over the last, 3 years, 4 years? When did COVID start? 2020? So we're like 3 years in now.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden, when everybody got sent home and businesses are trying to figure out, like, all right, what the heck do we do now? How do we make this work? One of the big questions we started getting from people is, how do we secure our employees' home networks? And can you? And I think most companies probably just said, there's nothing we can do. We're not even going to try. Like, we can barely even get them connected to the VPN. Like my home network, I've got a lot of devices. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you would not find on most corporate networks. Maybe, I don't know. What? Let
me ask you, do you have a separate network for your, like, how many IoT devices do you have? Like, do you have a lot, or you kind of stay away from them?
I'm everywhere. I have a let me say this. I'm gonna throw this out there before we get started. How do you start it? Alexa, buy a 500-gallon drum of lubricant. I just want to see who's got speakers on and who that kicks off.
Mine's on, but I think the weed whacking in my yard is probably overriding.
Oh man,
the noise, because my yard guys just decided to show up.
Yeah, so I'm very much bought in. Actually, Kevin got the first one that I'd ever seen. When the Echoes first came out, and we did that. We figured out we could do that. He had it set up on his desk so you could order stuff, and we figured out, hey, if we're online on a video chat, you can just give it commands, and it would start ordering stuff. And fortunately, nowadays you can turn off the process where, like, it doesn't actually complete the order. But what it does do is it will impact your recently searched stuff. So I can tell it to search for things, and now every time you go into Amazon, it's going to, like, be tainted by whatever we told it. I love the GIF that got posted in
Yeah.
Discord there. My wife asked me why I carry a gun in the house. I looked at her and said Decepticons. She laughed. I laughed. The toaster laughed. I shot the toaster. It was a good time. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously the easy one to start with that everybody's freaks out about is the Alexa, the Echoes, the Google Homes, the smart devices or the smart assistants. What do you think? Do you have one of those? Do you use them?
Oh yeah, I've got all of them. Yeah,
Are you worried about it?
Not particularly, no. And again, the yard guys, and now the dogs have heard
Now
the
the
yard
dogs
guys.
everywhere.
So I'm gonna need this smart lawnmower. I think probably Alexa, order me a smart lawnmower.
I love it.
Showing results for smart lawn mower. The first one is
Okay, never mind. Alexa, stop. No, I'm not
That's
too.
great.
I've got all the stuff. The sidewalk. Like I was worried about that when they started talking about that a few years ago. The Amazon sidewalk. Is that what it's?
Oh yeah, the network. Yeah. So for folks that don't know the idea of, do you want to describe it? Do you know how it works?
It's what is it? It essentially is like mini cell phone tower for your neighborhood. Like it's feeding off of your network to power other like low level devices like dog collars or whatever is around that probably isn't hooked up directly to a network, if I believe right.
Yeah. I think the idea is if like a neighbor's Wi-Fi or a neighbor's smart device is connected to a Wi-Fi that is stronger than yours, it can share that and grow. So like as everybody starts rolling out Nest or Ring cameras and all those devices, you kind of build I'm assuming it's a I don't know how the network actually works, but
I did opt out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not comfortable with that, but like as far as my own devices here, I feel like I've got a separate network for my
same here.
IoT devices.
Yeah.
And I've got that pretty well locked down.
So I tried that initially, saying, hey, I'm going to put all my IoT devices on one network. And I've got the garage door. I don't have a garage door opener. I've got the garage door monitor. So, right. I don't want people to be able to like yell at my Echo through the window and get it to open the garage door. But I've got the monitor. I've got thermostats and, cameras all over the place and all of that kind of stuff. I tried putting them all on a separate IoT network, and it ended up causing discovery problems, right? Like now the Echo can't find this light bulb or it can't turn up the thermostat or whatever. So what I ended up doing, and what I think is probably the safest way to do this, is basically I keep my work stuff separated. So like my work laptop, any devices I'm working on, anything that's like specifically set aside for company stuff, that's on a separate Wi-Fi by itself. And then the rest of the house is just like, the wild zone, right? I don't even know, my kids' switches and, Wii's and whatever's plugged into that.
Yeah. I did notice the same thing. Like when I had my computer on, the network that I just used for work, and then trying to print stuff with the printer hooked up to all the other computers or whatever in the house. And I had to switch to that to send something to the printer. So I know what you're saying, but
So someone said, can you create a separate VLAN? Yeah. Can you create a separate VLAN for your IoT? It really just depends on your infrastructure, what you've got. You can see I've got the Unify gateway back here, so I can go in and do some more advanced stuff. If you're rolling like an old Linksys router, simple thing, maybe not. There's different options for doing that, but I think it's one of the things really people have to look at and say, okay, what is our goal and what are we trying to do here? What do we want to get out of it, right? Well, we've got a list of stuff that I thought would be kind of cool to talk through and just see like, hey, what do we think about this? What are the downsides? What could possibly go wrong? But while we do that, I wanted to ask everybody in Discord, and I guess you could throw it here in the chat if you're just in the Zoom chat. What is the craziest device that you've seen or that you've got plugged into your network? And if you can share a link, even better, we might be able to talk about it live. I'm afraid of what I'm opening the gates for, but we'll see maybe if we can just kind of keep, scroll through and see what's going on. Do you have anything crazy unique on your network that like is worth talking about?
Me? I don't think so. No, nothing crazy. I feel like I've got all the usual suspects, the thermostat and,
Yeah.
I do have, my washer and dryer and dishwasher are smart, but I don't
Oh, wow.
really, I don't feel like the options, it seemed like a really great idea when I bought them because they're both fairly new. But there's just not a whole lot of options. I
Yeah.
noticed that if the, what is that? I don't use it too much, but it's, if IFTTT, if this, then that,
Yeah.
where you can hook everything up to it and they give you more options for like, recipes or applets, or I think they call it, where you can, if when my dryer is done, make the light in my bedroom blink, or, stuff like that, that I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to do that eventually. And then I add it to the list of 300 other things that I want to do. So,
Yeah. So your washer and dryer, like, I'm curious, thinking through like, what's the worst case that could happen there? Have you thought through like, how bad could this be? Let's set up a couple of attack scenarios. So one is, hey, it connects to a device on the internet that gives it feedback, and maybe that system is compromised and it's able to command your device to do something, right? That's one attack vector. I think another is you get malware on the internally, right? Kid's device, whatever, somebody clicks an email, it happens. And then now it's able to attack it internally. I guess there's always just the malfunction, things go bad.
yeah, thought about like with the washer and the dishwasher, like what's, something happened. I mean, you can't really like flood, keep the dishwasher running and like flood the kitchen or anything,
Are you sure?
Can you? Yeah, no, I'm not. So
that's an interesting, because I'm assuming the whole thing is running off firmware that is managing, hey, here's when to kick the water on, here's when to kick on the spin cycle.
That's one of the things that I do make sure I do with these is updates. Like I always go check for the updates and all that, because I mean, like that's an easy attack vector when stuff isn't updated and not passed.
Yeah. Well, so that's an interesting comment. A lot of the times that we get pushback, people are saying like, well, there aren't any security updates. I would do security updates, but they're just feature updates. But I think I know I've personally seen, as a company, we've seen a lot of times where, hey, we find security issues in a product, and then we go download the newest version or check the newest version, and those flaws aren't there. And they didn't release security updates. They just quietly patched it in the background because they didn't think anybody else knew about it. That terrifies me with stuff like that, right? Like, how do you know if, the update for your dryer is a security concern as opposed to just a feature update?
Good point.
I wonder, with a dryer, there's a heating element, right? I wonder if there's physical limits on that heat. Like, what would happen if I can bypass the limits and say like, hey, just heat this thing up as hot as it can get and don't stop?
Yeah, I mean, can you start the house on fire?
That's interesting. Oh, hey, we got Q&A too. I didn't notice this. But yeah, starting the house on fire. So that's an interesting interesting thought.
Probably need to clean my lint trap.
That's a good question. If you just kept it going over and over and over again, I guess at some point your clothes, like, you can only get so much lint out of it, right? Like, I'm thinking if somebody could kick it off while you're at work and just keep it going nonstop, if that would cause an issue.
It does do some annoying things that are, supposed to be smart, I think.
Yeah.
But like when clothes are in the dryer, sometimes things like towels or whatever, like they just take longer to dry.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dryer decides that they're dry and it'll turn it off, but they're not dry.
Some of the comments in there, there's a thermal fuse. If there's a lint sensor, you could disable it. I mean, the thing with attacks like that is you never know. Yes, there might be a physical constraint that's supposed to stop it, but what happens if that fails?
Yeah.
It's hard to know. I have personally, I think the weirdest thing on my network is it's pretty simple. It's something I built myself. So I was brewing cider. It's been a couple of years back. I was playing with that. And so I actually built this little Arduino based temperature monitors. It's got a temperature probe that, I could basically monitor the temperature of a room. I built this back before. Now you can just go buy devices that report to your Echo and do it for you. But I basically built this thing that has a couple different temperature probes and monitor that, and then send me alerts and notifications. I think that's probably the most complicated I've got.
Eric G asked the question, no one has mentioned yet, what if your IoT is pwned into part of a botnet attacking others from your IP? I don't know that a lot of the IoT devices would be able to handle that much. Would they?
So there have been some situations like that where I'm trying to remember a recent example. I know with cameras and stuff like that, anything that's listening on the internet tends to be a big target like that. There was a certain TV where the TV connected back to somebody to get programming, and then if I remember correctly, like the provider like went away, like went bankrupt, got bought by someone else or whatever, and someone else bought that domain and was able to push down malicious firmware to the device from that domain. Basically you have all these devices reaching out and asking for updates, and so they stood up and said, yep, that's me, I got those updates, and was able to push it down maliciously. That's a great attack vector to think through. Someone said here, are there any consumer Wi-Fi systems that offer a work from home oriented model, something like built-in work versus family? That's an interesting idea. I know there are some that have that kind of stuff. Like here's the guest Wi-Fi. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. Let's Wi-Fi crockpot on my home network. Black & Decker specifically bought it to hack because I figured, how secure is a crockpot going to be? So that's an interesting conversation. The whole idea of a crockpot, or what was the heating pad thing that we had?
The heating pad thing?
The Heston Q.
Oh, the induction burner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you look at that, how that works?
Yeah, I did.
So what does that do? What does that give us from a smart perspective?
It looks like you have to use a probe. Now in that picture, it's not showing it, but I was under the impression that that there was a probe that went along with it. So you would, put it into your steak or whatever in the pan, and that the probe communicates with the base to tell it, hey, this is reaching this temperature in this amount of time, like slow it down, turn the heat down, turn the heat up. Like I was under the impression that's how that worked.
Okay. So I think my understanding or my thought process for something like that, again, comes back to hey, anything that's going to create heat, right? They've probably got some kind of thermal limiter, some catch-all stop safety fuse or something. Yeah. But I'm always curious with that kind of thing, if we could attack that on the network and say, hey, just keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter. What kind of vulnerabilities there? One of the things that is really common for IoT devices, if folks haven't thought about this, is being the first to the market is the game changer, right? If you've got an idea for a device and you go through and securely engineer it and build all the safety precautions into it and do all the testing, and then you get it to market, what you're going to find is your price point is way more expensive than the competition, and you're 6 months after they've already been out there. Whereas what tends to happen is someone comes up with an idea, they throw it on Kickstarter, they throw it out there, and now you've got all these devices that really haven't been tested or
yeah, that concerns me too, that they've been rushed to the market without being fully tested or with a plan for provisioning updates when stuff's discovered. So that's something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a cat? I can't remember. You have an animal. It's a dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a cat?
No, I'm allergic to cats.
So I saw this. It's a smart litter box.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know somebody that has this. It's a self-cleaning smart litter box.
I've got a friend that's got one.
Really?
Yeah, she says it's amazing.
How interesting. What
I mean,
I'm so struggling. Like, the idea of a litter box is the cat does its business, you clean it out and you go throw away. How do you make that smart?
Okay. I guess it scoops it for you, puts it in a bag in the back. And like, let me preface with saying that I have been to her house before she got the smart litter box, and the cat litter box was in the bathroom, and it's a big bathroom, but after the cat uses it a few times, like that bathroom gets real small.
Sure.
So it is noticeably better. Like if you're the kind of person who's going to clean your cat litter box out every time you go to the bathroom, then it's probably fine.
Yeah.
But she's not. So
That makes sense.
So
I don't think I would do that.
her. Yeah.
Hold on. Hospitals are full of lots of IoT things and stuff. Network monitoring is your best friend. Yeah, I know. There's a company that supposedly has done a lot to identify network traffic of different IoT devices. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with which one I'm talking about, but they've got some kind of monitor you can put on your network and it just monitors the traffic. And from there, from a passive perspective, it can help identify all the different IoT devices and give you something of an inventory. Someone says that's Core Light. Is that what it is? I'm really curious. Core Light at home. Okay. Has anybody used that? Do you know if that's if it works reliably? Because that's one of the challenges that I think of from a corporate perspective is like, all right, you're trying to protect your corporate or your home network, your users. How do you even know what's there and what to worry about? Yeah, XDR with network feeds. That's the marketing term.
It's hard to keep track of stuff at home sometimes, I can imagine. Being on hospital
has a
network
box. Yeah, it's definitely a competitive marketplace at home. Alias, I used to have SETI at home. I loved SETI at home. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I worked in the computer center at the university I was at, and one of the responsibilities was the labs. So the guy who was ultimately in charge of the lab had his own account set up with SETI at home and had all the lab computers run it at night and on the weekends. It was great. Here's an interesting threat model Levi put out. You could run a bunch of appliances just to raise someone's electric bill. I hadn't thought about that.
I hadn't either.
I mean, I was thinking about what if you catch fire, but what if you just jack up? Oh, all right. Conspiracy theory here. What if you're the power company and you find a vulnerability on network? Because the power company a lot of times they add the discounts if you put in the smart thermostats, right? Is anybody like the power company paid for like 90% of my smart thermostats? It's been probably 6 or 7 years ago. They were trying to get people to move it. But every year they offer this incentive now where if I will let them, like when the grid is struggling, if I will let them raise my thermostat a couple of degrees, then they'll give me so much discount on my bill.
Okay, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. So what if they have the ability to increase the usage of my devices so that it costs me more? That's interesting.
We had a terrible electric bill last summer, and everybody did. And it was just a supposedly raising of the rates, but it makes me wonder
now. So here's a couple things. Someone says, could these devices be used as a pivot point to other devices on the network? That's absolutely my biggest concern is, hey, okay, this is just potentially an easy way to compromise the network and get on it and then go from there, right? That's always a concern. Now, the whole idea of zero trust model is, a counter to that. If your device is properly secured, if your corporate systems and whatnot are properly secured, you shouldn't care whether it's on a dangerous, malicious home network or if it's at McDonald's or if it's at DEF CON, right? Like if you've got the controls in place to protect it, then really it shouldn't matter. But that opens up a whole nother can of worms, moving towards zero trust and what does that mean? And, how much of it's buzzwords versus legitimate stuff.
I was thinking about the thermostats earlier and, what could go wrong with those. And I thought, mine's got a button on it that even if it's offline, you can adjust the temperature, right?
Yeah.
If that completely goes out, I'm sure I can figure out how to adjust the temperature, but I think about my parents who, you get them a smart thermostat to make it easier for them where they can just tell Alexa to raise the temperature or lower the temperature. They're in Chicago and, in the summertime, every 5 or 6 years, it gets hot enough where older people and people that don't have air conditioning, because there's still a lot of people that don't.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people pass away because of that, you know, heat stroke and stuff. So if you don't know how to do that and your thermostat goes out, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point. I drive an 81 Chevy truck.
Oh, I know you know
Specifically.
how to figure out how to.
Well,
fix
but
things.
but my point is, I drive it specifically like that's my vehicle. I mean, there's a lot of sentimental stuff behind it, but I don't have to worry about what if something shorts out. What if this computer starts? You know, like
Yeah.
you know, my wife's vehicle is a Yukon XL, a little bit newer, 2016. So it's like everything's computerized. If something goes wrong in there, I got to take it to somebody because, like, I can open the hood and look under it, but that's about all I can do.
Mhm.
With my truck, if something goes wrong, it's mechanical. I don't have to, you know, like I can crawl in and fix it, replace a part, and that's it. Someone here, anonymous attendee, said, I can't wait for my smart dryer company to go under and not be able to use my dryer anymore. That's an interesting perspective. Have you thought about that? Like with your washer and dryer, like what happens if the company no longer supports it?
I mean, it's Samsung, so it's not something I've thought about, honestly. Like, I don't know. I guess I'll have to get a new one.
Yeah, that's interesting. At what point does a major appliance become just disposable when you know, they no longer want to support it?
Yeah. I mean, they don't last forever anyway, so hopefully if that, you know, is the issue, it's gonna have to be replaced anyway. So
Yeah. There was some company that had I don't remember if it was like a whole smart, I think it was a smart garage door opener a while back. And they literally, the company just disappeared, went bankrupt, you know, all their infrastructure was gone, and people weren't able to open their garage doors anymore. Like everything, like even like, you know, everything was app based and it had to be done, you know, over the internet. There was no local based way to do it from outside. And so the folks just had to replace their garage doors, or the garage door opener, right? Not the whole door.
yeah.
Yeah, somebody else commented, to me, the biggest threat is them being used for botnets. Which, you know, the biggest concern there is, hey, if your device is being used for a botnet, that may not necessarily impact you. I mean, it may be frustrating. It may lower the lifespan of your device, use up your electricity or whatnot. But the bigger problem is for the whole, everybody else on the internet, you know, all those massive botnets being able to go after everybody. I'm sure you've heard the saying, like, you don't have to, if you're in the woods and you're attacked by a bear, you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun your friend.
Yeah.
You know, kick him in the shin or whatnot.
Yeah.
That doesn't work on the internet because there's not one bear, right? It's like, hey, we've got 1,000 bears all surrounding us. We all have to outrun them together, or else there's no point. I'm not sure that's the best analogy. I'm not sure that worked out.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
You're picking up what I'm putting down. Here in Oklahoma, we say, do you smell what I'm stepping in? Oh man.
I've heard that one before.
There was okay, somebody asked about doorknobs and like smart locks and all that kind of stuff. Do you have those?
Yep. Several.
Are you concerned about people being able to hack it and open it from outside? Like what are your thoughts on there? If hey, you've got, maybe is it Bluetooth, or do you know how it works? How it connects?
Yeah, but like my front door, I have a screen door with glass screen door and a screen that locks. And then I've got 2 locks on the front door. And one of them is a smart lock and one is a regular lock, which kind of defeats the purpose, but we don't really use our front door. We come in through the garage, which you have to get through the garage door. And then there's another lock going into the house. So I feel like I've got, you know, a few, you know, it's not just one point of failure. So I'm not worried about it there. Would I be comfortable just having one, you know, smart lock? I don't know. I mean, I've given the code for those to, you know, the cleaning people and like a few other people, and then, you know, forgot to change it for a day or two, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, that's a recipe for disaster. But
so what's the alternative for your cleaning people if you don't change the code?
I mean, I'm usually here,
Oh, okay. You just
But
have to
like
be there when they come.
just this past Friday, as an example, there's only been a handful of times where this has happened. But last Friday was my daughter's birthday, and it was her last day of school was the day before. So we had this all-day birthday party thing, and I wasn't home. So what I did was I opened the garage through my phone, through the app, and then I gave them the code to get in the house.
Gotcha.
Like they wouldn't have been able to get into the garage.
Yeah.
If I hadn't opened the garage, they wouldn't have been able to come in and get in the house. So, but I still changed it like shortly.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting. There's kind of the two different threat actors there of somebody you know and trust to be in the house when you're not there, right? There's a certain level of trust already. Now they still have the code afterwards. You didn't change it, right? It's not that much different than giving a vendor a trusted password and then not changing it when they're done.
Yeah.
But then you also have well, what if somebody can hack this device? I think somebody in the chat was talking about all the vulnerabilities with some of those devices, the cheap locks and whatnot. In my opinion, I don't see somebody walking up to my front door and trying to hack into my smart lock when they can just reach up and break the window and reach around and unlock it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like from that perspective, keeping your the locks that most of us have on our front door, our back door, stuff like that is just a convenient way to keep the neighbors out. It's not so much going to keep the criminals out if they really want in.
Yeah, if they want in, they're going to get in.
Yeah.
For
I think
sure.
Sarsaparilla said, I can open your keyed locks with lock picks. The smart lock isn't significantly less secure. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Unless I could see a scenario where I think somebody else talked about or mentioned the idea that if somebody's able to attack a whole bunch of these, right, they compromise something at the cloud level and they're able to send down commands to open everybody's locks. I could see where maybe that would be malicious. Let's see what other questions we have, or ideas we have.
That's fine. I actually had when I had the screen door installed last summer, I had the what's it called? Where the lock goes into the door. That whatever that part is. I had bought previously, but it was just sitting there. But so I had the guy install it when he did the door. But it's got prongs that are probably 4 or 5 inches long that you drill into the door and then put that, because the
I've seen those,
that was there before was like, I mean, you easily could have kicked it in, because it was just screwed into the frame, you know, the trim basically of the door, but now it's much deeper in, so
yeah,
it's a little more secure. But
somebody here said breaking a window would cause a greater chance for alarm, wake the dogs, that kind of thing. Possibly. I mean, that's assuming somebody's home. You know, most of the time, if your dogs are alert enough that they're going to wake when something like that's broken, they're probably going to hear it before you wake up anyway.
yeah, I know my dogs bark when the wind blows. So
yeah. Here's an interesting question. Can a Flipper Zero hack a smart lock? If you're not familiar with the Flipper Zero, looks like this. I just got to brag and show off because it's actually.
I was about to grab mine.
They're really a neat little device that's fun to play with. I think it probably largely depends on the lock. I'm not sure if I've seen any that would do that. Let me see what other devices. We had a list. Was there anything else that jumped out at you as like, this is just awesome?
I don't know about awesome. Maybe awesome. Could be awesome, but also like this smart bed. I mean,
smart bed.
Yeah, it's the bottom one. I threw it in there when I was looking around earlier, and it's just insane. I mean,
so here's the link in Discord. The smart bed. What does the smart bed do? Why do I need my bed to be smart?
I don't know that you do, but it's it's got integrated, you know, TVs and all kinds of fun stuff. What is it? There was something I was looking at, and here's
dimmable reading lights,
snore detecting bed.
Break. Oh wow.
There's some of the drop downs in here give you more information, but some of them don't. Like here's some of the other things that it can help you with. Sleep monitoring and analysis report. Cool, right? Noise and light monitoring. Yeah. occupancy detection. What exactly does that do? Like, it tells you if somebody else is in your bed? Like when you're not home, someone
Yeah, I guess,
gotten into your bed.
what's the fairy tale? The oh gosh,
No way.
somebody sleeping in my bed. Like, what is that?
Oh, who's been sleeping in
The mom's bed was too soft. The bears, the
yeah,
Goldilocks. Thank you. Oh my
okay.
god, I couldn't find it. Yeah, so like if the bears had the smart bed, they could determine that somebody's occupying their bed.
Yeah, they would.
I don't know. Does it tell
And
you
then-
if more than one people are sleeping in the bed?
It doesn't tell you anything. That's the thing.
Oh.
If you go to the link, it's got some options at the top where it's got drop downs and it'll tell you more about it. But that's one of the ones that it just has no context on.
Oh, so you have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and then right below that, electromagnetic field shielding.
Electromagnetic field shielding.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's a smart bed, like so it's protecting you from itself.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, so that brings up an interesting conversation that we haven't talked about, is the idea of privacy.
Mhm.
And what information are you putting out there? What are you giving out there? I can imagine, like, so I've had friends talk, like, I'll often post stuff on social media about, when I'm traveling for work and, oh, I'm here, I'm there. And people are like, oh, like, aren't you worried about people knowing that you're not home? It's like, no, my wife knows how to use the shotgun too. Like, I don't have to be there for that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really stressed about that. But that's an interesting thing, right? Like, if you're not home, could that be used by folks to say, oh, here's places where nobody has slept here in the last 2 nights, 3 nights, whatever, and start to kind of develop targets of where to go after?
Yeah. You see that a lot, questions about that. And I kind of lean towards, well, if somebody's going to break into my house and bust the window out with a brick, they're probably not sitting in front of a computer trying to find targets to do that with.
Probably not the right people, same
Probably
same
not.
people, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking probably not.
Yeah.
These are, I feel like, people that are going to drive by and be like, there's no cars there. Is there a dog? And, that's as far as that might go.
Yeah. So several people have asked in the comments about, well, could you use that to detect if someone is cheating? Maybe. I guess depends on, hey, it's like, wait a minute, I'm not home and my app says that there are 2 people in my bed.
I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do that.
That's true, right? Yeah, the occupancy makes sense maybe in a nursing home type situation. I could see that. That's reasonable.
The occupancy, yeah. This is a $400,000 smart bed though. So
I'm sorry, it's a
probably
what?
not.
$400,000?
Oh wait, no, sorry, 120,000. Supposedly the $400,000 one was one that Drake had made.
Oh, so it's only 120.
It's only 120.
Oh, that's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
Holy,
Misspoke, sorry.
I can't even comprehend that. That just blows me away.
I know. I'd have to live in it.
Yeah. So, where's I thought this one, it seems like a really good idea. The whiskey decanter.
I wanted to look at that one. Yeah.
Apparently it's not on the it's not still being sold. I looked for it and Jim Bean's taking it down. But
So
seems like a good idea. My only concern would be, what if something malfunctions and it just starts pouring my whiskey all over the ground?
What does it do? It pre-pours your whiskey like at 5 o'clock when you are ready to get off work. Gonna put an ice cube in there and pour you
4:30 or 4.
Pour 30.
No, I think the idea is it's voice controlled, and so you can just tell it exactly what you want and how much you want and all that kind of stuff. That was the idea, but I don't think it really went very far.
This Slurpee fork. What was this thing?
Yeah.
The anti-slurping fork.
Anti-slurp. Oh, I did see that. Where was that at?
Slurp it here. I'll put it in there.
Throw the link out there.
Yeah, I'll throw the link in here. It's was like, what is this? Food shaming fork.
Food shaming. I'm assuming that, oh, it covers your mouth for loud slurping. So
Okay.
if you don't have a spouse or significant other to yell at you and tell you to close your mouth, this basically helps cover it for you, right?
Well, then who are you closing your mouth for?
I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of saying, hey, here's this smart device that possibly could be running code from someone I don't trust, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna stick it in my mouth.
Yeah. Well, this is for slurping, but I did see one to make you eat slower. And it got lost in that. I don't think they're even making it anymore, but it was like $90 and it would like buzz or talk to you or something to make you eat slower.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I don't know. But how, that doesn't mean you can't eat a lot still.
Oh,
It just seems kind of silly.
Here's Ian mentioned there's a famous story about a breakup where a guy was cheating on his girlfriend. She discovered this because their Fitbits were linked and she got an exercise.
Oh boy.
Oh, she got an exercise alert for him at 2 a.m. when he wasn't home, showing high heart rate for about 10 minutes. Oh, gosh. Oh man. Yeah. So that's hilarious because like there have often been times where I'm traveling for work and I go out to a restaurant or something, late at night. And it's like, hey, I'm just going to walk back to my hotel and work off the, massive piece of cake or something I just ate. I can see where that would go bad, where my wife's like, hey, what are you doing right now? I'm walking. I'm fat.
Why is your heart rate up?
Exactly. Oh gosh, that's awesome. Someone said, what tips do you guys have when working from home office and surrounded by most commonly used smart devices like Alexa and Google? Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. We talked earlier about separating stuff onto a different network. Like that's obviously the easy one, keeping stuff, hey, your work stuff, your work equipment is only going to be over on this other device and nothing else. Are there other controls or things that you've thought about or ideas that you've seen that maybe would help keep that, maybe limit the impact of that kind of thing causing bad stuff?
No, like like I said, I'd keep all my other stuff on a separate network. So I haven't thought about that too much. Other than what I'm already doing.
Yeah. I think the challenge there is, okay, what devices is managing that? So, for instance, my kid says, hey, I'm going to mod my Wii and I'm going to download this code from GitHub and run it on my Wii. Okay. So now I have to assume that network is malicious, right? Because I'm not going to go do a security review to that code.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's malware or whatever it might be. Maybe it's my smart toaster that's just, been compromised. Think about from a normal corporate network, what are the other places that maybe you could try to hop over, right? Things like VLAN hopping, obviously you're going to try to secure against. But like, are you patching your router, your switches, right? All of the infrastructure that, you may have two separate networks, but is the infrastructure between the two that's shared, is that secured properly? Are you,
right.
If you're using the same, in fact, I know a friend that his home router was compromised. Now it was listening on the internet, but it was compromised because he used the same password on it that was in a password dump. And in this case, it was he was on a gaming forum and someone found his username. His username was something he used all over the place. They went and found a password breach and they were able to get his ID or his IP address through the gaming system or something. I don't know exactly how that happened, but they were able to basically get into his router. And then at that point, I don't remember I think they changed his DNS settings. So it pointed to a malicious DNS server instead of something like that.
No. That's another good point with this is I think a lot of people might say, oh, what do I care if somebody gets in my toaster? What are they going to do? But if you're using the same password for your toaster as you are for your router or anything else, which, I mean, you and I have seen it a lot, unless you're using a password manager, a lot of people are still doing that.
Yeah.
And you get compromised in one thing and then, that opens up the door for everything else if you're not, using separate passwords.
Yeah. Well, and especially like working from home, where people have like say a corporate laptop and they use it for everything. They do personal stuff on it and work stuff and stuff like that. That can be a challenge to keep that kind of stuff separate. Like people have to be well trained to understand, no, this is work stuff. It's separate, different passwords. We need to be careful not to merge it across too much.
Absolutely.
Walt says smart stuff equals laziness for most things.
I saw that and I thought that was interesting because I've with all the smart things that I have and some that like I haven't even dove deep into what it can do yet or what it can do with the if this then that. How much time do you spend programming these things and working on them and updating that? You spend all this money to spend all this time to save time and money.
Yeah.
Like with the thermostat, it'll lower your electric bill because it knows, when you're home and when you're not, and to raise things lower. But like, where's the cutoff for the time and the expense?
Well, I think too, along with that is you got to be reasonable with what is the actual risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so this could happen, right? It's entirely plausible, but is it likely to happen? And what's it going to cost to prevent it? And cost isn't necessarily just money. It's time and convenience,
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody, where did I just see that? Does laziness equal convenience? That's a good question, because I have tools that are very specific niche tools that are used for this one thing, right? Like I'm talking like hardware, woodworking or mechanics tools, whatever, very specific niche thing. And it's like, yes, I could do the same thing with a screwdriver, but having this specially designed little niche screwdriver thing is extremely convenient.
Yeah.
Is that lazy? I don't think so. I think it's just, there's a balance there of saying, you know what, it's worth my time to spend a little bit more money to have this convenience.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody too.
Yeah. So someone said for far too many people, IoT is set and forget. An app walks them through the setup. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
How many people, I'm curious, I wish, I don't know if we can do a poll live here, but we'll just throw it in Discord. How many people in the last, let's say 5 years, have ever updated the firmware on a IoT device? I'm trying to remember like my thermostats, the last time I looked at it to even see if they have updates available. F&G says monthly. What? I call BS on that. There's no freaking way you do that monthly.
My thermostat likes to go out all the time. So, when I have to reset it up again, I
Really? Okay.
update it. Yeah.
Yeah. Megan says they're supposed to be updated. That's exactly about quarterly. So if you have a schedule and you're organized and you get alerts, maybe I could see that. Lord Zordek, he says Ring does it automatically. That's a good point. But let me ask this. When was the last time you checked to make sure that update was happening properly? Whether it's Ring or Nest, or there's several that are mentioned in that. Because we see that all the time in environments too, where it's like, hey, yeah, that's set up for auto updates. Yeah, but it hasn't updated in 3 years. Well, but it should. Yep. Welcome to IT. Oh, okay. The guy that says monthly says I have no smart devices, so I check firmware on my ISP at monthly. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's a great point about set it and forget it. Like I didn't even think about how many devices I have that, I'm sure I updated the firmware when I first put it in, but I haven't touched it since. Speaking of that, my printer over here, I've been trying for 3 days to update the firmware on my this is a Creality Ender 3 S1 Pro, and for whatever reason it won't take the new firmware, and it's got like a mainboard firmware and a whatever the other little digital piece is, and you've got to update them together, and apparently somehow I've got them like, so one has a different version than the other.
Oh.
So there's actually like I'm in a denial of service situation right now because I tried to update it and the update didn't work. You know what I mean? Like there's more risk so far. Actual risk that has presented itself has been denial of service if I can't use my device now because I tried to update it for, stuff. It's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
What else we
I
got?
didn't say I was against laziness.
That you're against what?
Walt D. Jr. said I didn't say I was against laziness.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. You can call it laziness. I think it's a terminology thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan pointed out for some of these devices, where would you even check? It's hard to find release notes. Yeah. And more often than not, it's like somebody has an idea, they release a device, they put it out there, and nobody ever touches it or thinks about it again.
Right.
On the idea of checking stuff like that, I'm gonna just throw this out there. It's completely off topic, but somebody told me this a long time ago. So if you go to annualcreditreport.com, you're allowed to check your credit report with each of the 3 credit bureaus once a year,
Mhm.
and it's free. It's federal law requires them to let you do it once a year.
Okay.
Since there are 3 credit bureaus, you can check one every 4 months, and instead of detecting bad stuff happening once a year, now you can check it and identify that every 4 months. So I did something similar to what F&G was talking about. I have a calendar reminder that, let's say April, I check Experian, and whatever the next, July or August, whatever it is, I check Equifax, and then the next one I check TransUnion. Kind of a similar thought there.
Yeah. And with the changing of the seasons,
Yeah.
Summer 2023, fall 2023.
It aligns with my password, right?
Yeah.
Tech09 says there are 4 credit bureaus now. I didn't realize that. I'll take your word for it.
4.
All right. So did you see the smart toilet?
Yes.
I saw this link. I have no idea what it does.
I don't either. I just saw the price and was like,
This is like, yeah, who doesn't need an $8,000 toilet
yeah.
that looks like a trash can? I don't know. I don't. Yeah, there's all kinds of privacy questions going on there.
Are you
Oh, Megan shared a video of her toilet at her house. It's like a rave going on in there. I love it.
Wow.
What a load of crap. Oh, geez. That's bad. All right. Does anybody else got any other devices that you're like, this is just insane and it should be stupid, or it is stupid?
Oh, this has got comfort height feature. So the toilet will, like when you get in your car and you have a setting for your wife and for you, like for the seat, push the button.
Most of it's just
that's worth $8,000.
What is the squatty potty, like $29.99? You know what I'm talking about?
They've got a knockoff one that's like $12.
Yeah. Oh, is it self-cleaning? That's what kids are for. I love it.
No.
It's got to have a bidet in it. Like that's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, what is the weirdest thing on your network?
On my network?
On your network, what is the
bunch of weird stuff on my probably the weirdest thing that occasionally makes it onto my network is the smart thermometer that I use on my smoker. It's a separate device.
Okay.
And so it's not there permanently. It's only plugged in and used when I'm.
So is it the meter, or like is it one that's?
No, it's not. I don't have one that's like the full smoker that will control like pellets and whatnot. I just have. It's just a little black box. Probes go in.
Oh, okay.
And then, so is it Wi-Fi enabled?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got something similar, but it's Bluetooth, so it connects to my phone.
It has Bluetooth as well. You can do Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. I do. Again, it's the convenience thing. I do like the Wi-Fi because I'll like run up to Publix to be like, oh, I'm smoking. I want to get more foil, or I ran out of mustard, or whatever it is, and I can watch the temperature just to make sure that it's doing what it needs to do.
Yeah. So I just posted a link to it's called MyMe. It's basically a wearable camera that uses AI to identify things around you, and then like gives you, supposedly it helps you, like, hey, here's where this person from, and here's
my gosh.
And yeah, sort of like the Google Glass was supposed to have done years ago.
I have to show this to my wife because she's been literally, my wife has face blindness. Like she cannot Like she can know you forever until she hears you speak. It's like
Oh, how
she
interesting.
actually said to me, like I've come into a room when we're out somewhere, and until I speak, she's like, I didn't. I thought you were somebody else. I'm like, we've been married for close to 15 years. Like, maybe this visage you could have committed.
She's trying really hard to forget, right?
Yeah, I would too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got about 5 minutes left on the webcast, and I wanted to make sure that we covered some. You've been champs about just kind of taking the questions as they come in. And I think one of the key questions as we kind of wrap this up, and again, thanks for coming. Thanks for, just chatting. I in the chat mentioned, I'm like, this is feeling less like a talk and more like a group therapy session for security folks about
Exactly.
like IoT PTSD. That's it. You just saw, I found this, I found
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
I found that. It's like, it's okay. Show me on the TCP/IP stack where the device hurt you. That kind of thing. But yeah, so the main question was, what is your advice? What is, the top, I don't know, couple things, 3 things, 5 things that you would tell people that they should do to better secure their networks and Wi-Fi and IoT devices?
Yeah. So I think we've talked about a lot of them, but let's summarize. The first is you should have IoT devices on a separate network. There's a couple ways of doing that. If you've got a device that a router or something that allows you to set up a separate SSID, separate network, great. That's one way of doing it. If you've got just like a cheap router, you can actually do that with like kind of stacked router devices, right? Like put all the stuff under one, put everything else that's important under another one, and then have them connect to like your ISP router above that. So you've got kind of like a physical segmentation thing going on. That's one thing. 2, check for those firmware updates. Just like you would do with any organization. Dave Ramsey used to say, imagine you managed money for a company called Me Incorporated. And if you manage money for Me Incorporated the way you manage money for yourself, would you fire you? Yes, right. Well, manage you're the IT guy for your home network. And if you manage your home security for your network the way you did at work, would you fire you? So make a list, right? The CIS controls, number 1, have an inventory of your devices. I think it was F&G in chat commented on having a schedule where he goes and like, hey, I get the reminder, I go check this. That shouldn't be that time consuming if you have the inventory. It might take you time the first time to say, here's where I need to go look for firmware. But honestly, once you start maintaining that inventory, what you'll do is you'll keep that in your spreadsheet or whatever. So next time it's just a matter of, hey, let's go look and see if there's anything new. Most likely those things are going to be end of support before they're really, firmware updates, but it never hurts to check. We talked about changing passwords. Don't use default passwords. Don't use common passwords across all of them. And then I think a fourth one that a couple of people have mentioned and we haven't talked about is the idea of DNS protection. So there's devices called Pi-hole that allow you to basically blacklist malicious DNS stuff, and you can download lists of those. That can be really helpful. For my home, now I don't do this for work stuff. For all my home stuff, I use what's the Cisco umbrella? What's the home version is called? What's Cisco's DNS protection thing?
Open DNS.
Open DNS. Thank you. They do a pretty good job of blocking a lot of that malicious traffic. I know, yeah. Dasgrog says Netgear basically has something like that built in. That's a very common thing for a lot of consumer devices to be rolling in now.
I ducked out of the way for a second because I have to drop because I have to go run a tabletop exercise, but I want to say one thing before I do. And then Megan, if you're still on, I would love it if all of you could hang out and maybe just let everybody know what anti-siphon classes are coming up. But before I do that, you mentioned the would you fire your financial person if it was you? And I said yes, and I had to reach into my drawer here because I cannot be trusted. I'll have a couple drinks and go into like wish.com or whatever. And there was a while where all I was doing was buying tiny things. So here's a tiny axe, and then
That's awesome.
A tiny briefcase, and then my personal favorite, which is the tiny violin for when people are
are whining.
Yeah, there's the tiny violin.
I love that.
Yeah. So no, I would absolutely be fired in a hot second.
But those are great.
I know, aren't they though? Right.
Yeah.
So one, it is 1 o'clock. Please, finish your thoughts there. But we want to jump in right at one because some people have got to go back to work and whatnot. So one, if you're one of the 307 people still with us, awesome. Thank you for hanging out for this IoT toaster therapy session that we've gone through. Nathan and Kathy, thank you for coming and joining. And there's lots of folks in the Discord. Please jump in there, and if you have a chance, if we missed some questions or didn't cover them, hopefully you'll be able to do that. Can you stick around for a few minutes and talk about some of the classes you got coming up?
You talking to me or Megan?
I'm talking to you, Mr. Sweaney, and you.
Absolutely. Well, I'll throw one more punch in there for the PCI 101, kind of an introductory understanding of everything that falls under the umbrella of the payment card industry, not just the security standards, but the solutions and the different people, the certification programs, all of that kind of stuff. That's coming up next week. So you still got time. It's pay what you can, whether that's the full price or whether that's zero. Jump in, join us. We're going to have a great time. I promise to make it fairly interesting. As interesting as I can. And last thing here, I just got to add this for those that haven't found it already. I just found the tiny violin on Wish.
Yeah. So, yes. Yeah.
I don't know if I can get it here in time by next week, but I definitely got to order one of those.
Yeah, no, it's and it comes with a little stand too, like to sit on your desk. It's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
All right. So with that said, with tiny violins, I'm going to drop off. Megan, you have the helm.
All right.
What else do we have coming up here, especially with our friends from Secure Ideas?
Yes. Well, next week, obviously, Nathan has his intro to PCI, which I put in the chat, but we also have a couple of other pay what you cans. Getting started in packet decoding, reporting for pen testers is also next week. And then, of course, John has his SOC core skills class, which is a hugely popular pay what you can class. But like Ian had said, we have partnered with Secure Ideas. So you guys have a lot of really cool classes in our catalog. Probably one of the most popular is your CISSP mentorship class that I know both of you teach that one, right? Or parts of it on that specific class, because it runs over like a 6 to 8 week.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Let me do the quick little summary there. So studying for the CISSP is hard, right?
Yes.
Anybody who's done it, it's a challenge. Your options traditionally have been go do the 6 or 7 day like deep dive, exhausting boot camp.
Yes.
And forget it all the next day. And you paid $7,000 for the process, or you study at home and you never get it done. Right. We've all been there.
Right.
So the reason that we created the mentorship program, it's a study at home where we come along beside you and guide you for 10 weeks. We give you specific, here's what you need to read by next week. Here's what you need to the main points you need to get out of it. And then we have a 2 hour and a half, 2 hour session every week where we just say like, hey, here's the main things from this, particular part of it. And here's what you need to work on or pay attention to, or, we just kind of guide you through it. So we've had incredible results with that. I don't remember when the next one starts up, but
I'm pretty sure it's September. Let me look. I remember seeing something. Yeah, September 12th is when the next one starts.
Awesome.
So I did put that link, and I also put the link to our training calendar. We also have Wild West Hack and Fest coming up, which will have pre-conference training too. I'll drop a link to that in Discord as well. But yeah, I think that you guys are going to be out for Wild West Hack and Fest. Hopefully we'll see you guys.
I haven't even looked that far ahead. I'm not sure when that is.
It's in October.
October. Yeah. You just said that. I was processing and trying to read that at the same time.
Unfortunately, I think it falls during the same weekend as Besides Jack's. With a lot of us here in Jacksonville.
Got a lot of folks there. Yeah.
Dang.
October is a hard time for conferences. You get
Yeah.
into Q4. It's a really challenging time to pull away from the work.
Right. Well, thanks again for hanging out. It was interesting to listen to everybody's IoT, trauma that they have and the things, and learning about the Ring cameras, and the police can just get your videos. That's a little alarming and disturbing.
So that's an interesting. Do we have a minute? Like, I know.
Yeah, sure. I want to talk about that because I have Ring cameras.
I've got a friend who's in the FBI, and he was actually part of the very first case where they basically worked with Ring to be able to get access to that. And where it started with there was a situation in Florida where the police showed up to execute a warrant and basically knocked on the door, and the person inside used their camera to see where the cops were standing, shot them in the face through the door, and killed some cops. So they basically said, hey, we got to figure out how to do this. Like, this is not we got to figure out a way to make this better. And so they went and they communicated with the folks behind Ring, and I'm sure probably by now all the rest of them as well, but it started with Ring. And they said, okay, what is a process that we can submit a warrant, right? We have a warrant that's going to be executed. We basically need permission to be able to either shut down the camera or to see what's on the camera, stuff like that. So, I'm a pretty big privacy nut. And so I'm kind of freaked out about, like, wait a minute, what are the safeguards around here? And I'm not going to say it's perfect, but they did work with they have a process where it has to go before a judge and it has to be approved. And, there's certain precautions in place to make sure they can't just say, like, oh, anytime we want to go look at your webcam.
Right.
So there are some limitations there, but it is something to realize, right? Like, the police, their job is to enforce the law. It's not necessarily to help you, right? The whole serve and protect thing is a marketing gimmick, not part of the, job description. So I'm kind of on both sides of the fence there. Like, I see the need for it and I think it's good, but you got to consider that part of your threat model of what if somebody sees something they misinterpret or they don't understand the context, or that kind of stuff could be used against you potentially.
Yeah. I wonder if it's just exterior or if it's interior, or if they differentiate, or if it's just all.
I think it would have to be all, because I don't think Ring's not going to know, right? Like, I've got a doorbell camera, but if I had that inside, they wouldn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I've got some, I've got the doorbell one, and then I've got interior one. So I wonder if they differentiate. That would just be interesting to look up. Oh, look, somebody is posting some stuff about it. But of course it was Florida, like Ryan said. Florida.
I think the interior cameras are an interesting conversation. Like, I've got one. So we've got like a landing above our stairs, and my kids' computers are right there. And so oftentimes I work from home. My wife's out. I need to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. Yeah. Right. So I can, have my camera running on my phone right here or whatever, and be able to see what's going on in the landing. Partly just so I say, like, oh, you know what? They're fine.
Right.
They're playing. They're doing good. Excuse me.
He gets a little choked up about it.
Yeah, man, I just get emotional.
I know. Kids, they just choke you up.
Yeah. Anyway.
Mine is like in my kitchen. And so I could definitely see, because my basset hound is terrible. She is awful at getting into the trash. I have like this concrete fish thing that I put in front of the thing, but I can see, like, when she's moved it and she's, getting in there, and I can, turn on the microphone and yell at her. And she runs away. But
we've got one of those pet treat dispensers that's got the camera on it as well. And which I'm home a lot of the times, so I haven't used it in a long time. And that when we go out of town, we have somebody stay here and watch the dogs. We used to have a dog sitter that came in and let them out a few times a day, but we have a friend whose mom's semi-retired and she does that now. And I can't look at the camera while she's here. I feel like that's even though it's my house and I want to see what's going on, like, it feels like such an invasion of privacy, even into my own home, that I don't look at it while she's not here. But that brings up something else about just being mindful of the data that you're sharing on these devices, because my pet camera, every time I go on there, wants to sell me dog treats.
Yes.
Buy these dog treats, put them on automatic refill, and it's not like a super off-brand name, but like I'm not sure I trust it enough to put my credit card information into it. So
Well, you can come to the PCI class and
Right.
you can learn all of the controls. You got to bring it all back around to the commercials.
That something that didn't get talked about was not just the privacy from your devices, the privacy issues, but what about your neighbors and the people around you?
Mhm.
Like, I know if I leave my neighborhood, I drive past probably 12 cameras just before I get to the main street. Like, who owns the feed to those? Like my Ring camera on my doorbell, right? Like, is the data feed from that, is that mine, or am I licensing the use of it and it belongs to Amazon? And I'm kind of embarrassed to say I don't really know, but I do know that doesn't just record me. It records my neighbor. I live on a cul-de-sac, and every time my neighbors come or go, that's getting recorded. Now that data may not be saved anywhere. I'm assuming nobody has the bandwidth and the storage to save all of that data all the time, but potentially they could.
Yeah.
I have to, because my Ring, I pay for the extra subscription where it'll save my data for like 30 or 60 days. I don't remember what I had to use it recently, so I know it's at least 30 days. But yeah, I'm not sure.
It's similar to like with cars, smart cars, and like the Tesla. I don't remember. I want to say it's 12, but basically Tesla has cameras all over the car that record everything. And on top of that, you got like the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and whatever other protocols or whatever it has those devices on it. They could basically be keeping, if they choose to, it's just a firmware update, the feed from all of those cameras, all of the logs of every Bluetooth ID that it passes by. So like when my watch passes a car, or when my phone is beaconing out or whatever, if they chose to keep that data and correlate it, every time a Tesla drives by a house and sees all of the wireless devices on it, they could know who's home and who's not. They could know where people work and where they don't. They could know, hey, this person's wife ends up at this other person's house 20 minutes after that guy goes to work every day.
Right.
Or, hey, here's these executives from this company, and they are now visiting this city over here where their main competitor's at. There's all kinds of interesting correlations that could be gathered. I don't know that we have the processing capability there yet, but I think the ability to store large amounts of data, the bandwidth to be able to gather that data, and then I used to say machine learning, but now we're getting into the AI models to be able to process that data. I think whoever controls those data feeds and is able to correlate it is going to have some really powerful capabilities in the very near future.
Yeah, that's pretty scary to think about, especially considering Tesla.
And it's not just Tesla; they're all doing that, right? Like all the manufacturers are going that direction.
Right.
Here's what I think we need to do.
Okay.
All of us, the 211 participants, we're all part of this deal, right? We need to crowdfund a marketing company. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically offer a massive subsidy to these cars that have all these features. If the dealer and the person buying the car and everybody else, if they sign over the data feed to us, we'll subsidize the car. So now we are the owner of all that data and we can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah. Side hustle. I'm in.
I don't know. If somebody takes that and runs with it, I expect a little bit of a commission.
Yes, you heard it here first, and it is being recorded. So we do have the evidence of said thing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, guys, for hanging out. It was there's no slides for the talk because it was more just an open chat talking about IoT. But we can't wait to see you next week for class. And Kathy, hopefully we'll see you soon in an upcoming class. Again, I'll make sure to put our live training calendar. We also have you guys have contributed to our on-demand course catalog as well. So we want to thank you guys again for coming in and hanging out with us.
You're welcome.
Glad to do it. I've just got one more thing to say to wrap up.
Okay.
Siri, call mom.
I don't have my Siri set up. All right. You guys have a good day. Thanks again, everybody, for
All right.
hanging out.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.